the Red River rivalry, Texas versus Oklahoma. John Mateer, game time decision. He starts. Texas able to pull it out and beat Oklahoma in the Red River shootout. Your thoughts?
Two things, Blake. We talked about in the preview, and you and I were on different sides. But the determining factor was going to be.
I got called an Oklahoma hater. Remember?
And now I'm getting called a Texas hater, which I've got no stock in either side. But Blake, we talked about how both teams had really bad struggling offensive lines. They couldn't block a soul going up against teams that had deep and aggressive and talented front sevens that were flying all over the field and causing problems for their opponents. And the way that the winner was going to prevail was going to be who was less bad. That's so dumbed down and stupid, but it was going to be, this is as simple as it was and how this game played out. Who played the least bad? Who made the least amount of mistakes? Who gave up the most amount of pressures? Came down to offensive line play. I thought Texas was going to be the team that struggled the most, and it just so happened it was Oklahoma. Oklahoma gave up a ton of pressures. Every time Mateer was dropping back, he had somebody in his face, and we absolutely need to talk about the concerns for this offensive line now that they're in the harder part of their schedule. But Blake, I got to get this out of the way, and I got to say this. Mateer shouldn't have played. You and I played Division I college football. We did not play at this level. But anyone who's played football at a high level knows or has had experience with a player that might have been really severely banged up, and you're expecting him to come back at a certain point. And then 1 week, you're starting to hear, he's ready to go this week. Oh, okay, cool. Your teammate's ready to go. It's exciting. He's an important player for your team. And he goes out there and he stinks because he's hurt. You don't need to power through an injury. John Mateer, I credit you, man. I credit you for the toughness of trying to battle through it. But he couldn't throw the ball. And why Brent Venables didn't have the decision-making to just say, hey, let's put Hawkins in. At halftime, they should have put Hawkins in. The picks that he threw, the errant passes that he threw were the result of him not being able to control the football. Every ball was slow. It barely came off of his hand. He had a thumb injury. He just had thumb surgery. I don't understand, Blake, why he played. I honestly am going to go as far as say that completely cost him, and it sucks because he's the reason for their success so far this year. It's just nuts to me.
Was it bad? I'm not. There was definitely some velocity issues. You can't ignore that.
Yeah.
However, I thought it was some really bad decision making too. Like the first interception he threw was into triple coverage to Muhammad. That ain't no thumb issue.
Yeah. No,
you can't throw it into triple coverage. The one at halftime. That ain't no thumb. That's not a thumb issue. That's a decision-making issue.
Yes. I'm not saying that every single it was more than just the he was 20 of 38. His completion percentage was atrocious because he's got guys moving all over the place to catch the ball. But that's the problem with this, Blake, is that it was both things, and he's a risky decision maker. So when he doesn't have any velocity on his ball, those plays are getting knocked down or they're getting turned over. That's as simple as it is.
Oklahoma and against Power 4 opponents this season is running the football outside of John Mateer for 2.1 yards per carry. We came into the season saying, hey, last year your offensive line stunk. And a lot of Oklahoma fans said, no, it's Jackson Arnold. No, it's not. Your offensive line got pushed around. But, Joe, I got to be real with you. Everybody in the last 2 weeks, when you talk about this matchup, has said, oh, man, Arch can't do it. He can't do it. It was Arch that showed up. You talk about statistically what Arch did. Did you see some of the throws? Did you see some of the things that he did? Because quite frankly, and I know that you held Oklahoma down and Texas still might not be a great football team. Did you see some of the shit that Arch Manning did? I got to be real with you. The best quarterback was not on Oklahoma from even a physical standpoint. I mean, I don't know what their careers will hold, but it was Arch Manning that found the way. It was Trey Weisner being fully healthy from that hamstring injury where they found the run game. And by the way, Trey Weisner, for what it's worth, only had a pair of catches, 3 catches. All of them but one went for first downs. Massive checkdowns by Arch. And Weisner went off. The more physical team ultimately won because they pushed them around. And I felt like with the Oklahoma issue, with them not being able to move the football at all, was that defensive front seven got exhausted, and then Texas ultimately leaned on them. Arch made some elite throws, and ultimately it was too much, and Oklahoma just couldn't overcome. But there was always the scenario, Joe, healthy John Mateer or non-healthy John Mateer. Brother, if you can't run the football, you ain't going to win shit. And it continues to come down to, ultimately, if you cannot do that, bad things are going to happen. By the way, in the critical situation of the game, Joe, in the fourth quarter, the Texas defensive line finally showed up. 4 sacks on John Mateer. 4. They got after him all game. And this wasn't like a beginning of the game stuff. I mean, John Mateer had an opening good drive. I get that he's hurt, but he's playing. Just wasn't good. And Texas was able to overcome and really kind of lean on them as they were able to dominate that time of possession.
And there could have been more sacks with the amount of pressures that he just faced, like every time he was dropping back.
Right.
This is why we generally had fear for Oklahoma. And to be quite frank, every single game that they have on the rest of their schedule, they're going to be facing teams with pass rushes that are significantly better than their offensive lines. South Carolina, Ole Miss, Tennessee, Alabama. A lot of these games are on the road, by the way. Mm-hmm. Missouri and LSU. So it is going to be some tough sledding for Oklahoma. How do they handle that? To talk about Texas, I had a take last week, and I need more respect for what I said. I'm not directing at you, but I think that like everyone who commented on the preview and stuff like that, anyone who thinks that I'm being negative about Texas, I'm not. I said something that can very much come to fruition and came to fruition partially yesterday. Texas could be like Tennessee last year. Tennessee loses to Arkansas, and nobody knows what the hell is going to happen to Tennessee. Everybody thinks that their season's done. They bounce back. They get a big win against Alabama. They're one of their biggest rivals. And they stack enough wins. They finish the year strong. They go to the playoff. Texas can absolutely be that. And the biggest common denominator here is you have 2 quarterbacks with Nico and with Arch, who both started the season with rocky performances, and his bad play cost them those games. Arch doing this, going 21 of 27, simplified throws, moving the pocket, just keep everything like flowing, keep it just real simple until he gets his confidence back. Be a game manager, and you need more from your running backs.
Well, they
got in this game. That's what I'm saying, is that's what they got in this game. And I don't know what the deal totally is with Baxter's health and if and when he can come back. I'm going to look that up in a quick second so I can have context on that. But Trey Weisner had a couple of plays, and it's hard to say that you want more from your running backs when a lot of times running back production is reliant on offensive line play. I saw plays from Weisner where he was contacted at the line of scrimmage, and he made guys miss, and then he would go and pick up a couple of yards. There was one play, I think it was like a 3rd down play, where it looked like he was done, he was cooked, and he ended up picking up the first down. Trey Weisner did that last year, and I think he showed that he can do it again this year, and I would love to see how they continue to get better and better if their run game can show up more. Baxter getting back, whenever that timeline is going to be huge for this team, but Blake, them surviving and going 10-2 or 9-3 is contingent on, can Arch repeat what he did against Oklahoma, which I think is doable.
Made some elite throws, man, against a defense that's been pretty solid. Now, the ultimate question was, who really was this Oklahoma team? Because you faced off against Auburn. It's offensively just completely anemic, not great. I mean, what were you? And then Oklahoma goes up against Michigan. Okay, well, you win, but I mean, what are you here? Joe, this one can get pretty bad pretty quickly because now that you look at their schedule moving forward, there's some really good teams on that. In reference to your Texas thought and take, I don't know if I can go there yet because, listen, if you're Texas, you still got to go up against Georgia. You still got to go up against Texas A&M. Like, you still got some games here that against really good opponents that you're still going to get tested. But if that front seven continues to show up and play the way that they're playing, if Arch continues to just keep getting better every week, if Weisner in this run game continues to go, they have the talent. It's young talent, but they have talent. And it only comes down to the part where, hey, they go on the road to Ohio State and they lose. They go into Gainesville and they lose. And you ask yourself, okay, well, this team's not any good. But, Joe, I went into this game, and the reason why I picked Texas to win it was very simple. I don't have faith in Oklahoma offensively. I had less faith in Oklahoma offensively, ironically, with or without John Mateer. And even if he did play, how ready would he be willing to go and be able to go? At least I got 2 losses by Arch and Texas that, listen, it was what it was, but he had nothing. I got to give Sark a lot of credit in this game. He completely abandoned the run against Florida, and he stayed with it and stayed with it and stayed with it against Oklahoma, and they won. They kind of gotten out of their element, and they're starting to find it. They've been banged up at running back. Getting that health back, to your point, will be a big deal, but I got to be real with you, man. I felt like the scores don't indicate, but they completely dominated Oklahoma. Oklahoma had zero chance. The dagger and the punt return by Niblet was a big deal, and it sealed it. But, man, it was much over after that. Joe, they couldn't score a touchdown. They couldn't score a touchdown, and they got cooked in a lot of different areas. So it's going to be interesting to see, but a really good win for Texas.
Yep. No, absolutely. And I'm just going to reiterate, a lot of work still needs to be done, but there is a path forward for this Texas team.
Agreed.